Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Ericka Champion Wise, Elite Leader with Paparazzi Accessories. Today's video is not the most fun topic that I've ever done. I'm gonna tell you, it's not the most fun. But we need to talk about it, leader to leader. So get you some coffee. I've got ice today. Shout out to my cute alma mater, the University of North Carolina, Asheville, for getting me through this day, okay? Ready? We're gonna talk about what to do as a leader if one of your leaders leaves the business. It's not fun. It's not something we want to think about. It gives us the willies and the heebie-jeebies. This cannot happen to me. Well, it can happen to you. It can happen to any of us. And it probably will happen to you. Yeah. I just had a thought. I got to write it down before I forget. So you know I have notes. Yeah, you know I have notes. So we're going to talk about what to do when this happens and what to do now to set yourself up if this happens. If you've been around for a little while, you know that some of my best training comes from what happens to me, and so I'll be very transparent with you. Last week, one of my number one leader on my team was no longer a consultant. Compliance dismissed her. And before you send me a comment or email or a message asking what happened, I'm not going to discuss it. So just don't. Save yourself that time. But she was let go by compliance for breaking our policies and procedures. And so it's been a week of crazy, of absolute crazy. And so I want to tell you some of the things that I did prior to this event to set myself up to be able to survive this event. Because ordinarily, losing your number one line kills you. No ranks, no promotions, you're not going to hit your numbers. And so I want to hopefully, I hope, help someone avoid that because it's going to happen. People leave, compliance gets involved, people make different choices, or people, they need to take time off for this, that, or the other. And so we need to prepare now as leaders for an eventuality that may or may not happen. So I hope this helps you. So I want to tell you what I did before. I decided, because I've lost leaders before. I have. May explain why it took me so long to get to a lead. But I've lost leaders before, and I learned at that point I didn't do myself any favors by not building relationships with the people on my leaders' team. I allowed previous leaders to lead their own teams because that's just the way I am. I'm very hands-off. If you need me, I'm here, but I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. That was my first mistake, was not building those relationships with that downline. Now, I have a lot of levels. You can't always go 10 levels deep and build relationships with people, but you for sure can build relationships with your second levels. Some of them even your thirds. So you can reach out and personally welcome those second levels. You can make personal phone calls. So excited. Thanks so much for joining. Can't wait to see what you do. You can mail them things. You can shout them out in your groups. But you can go ahead and build that rapport with at least bare minimum, that second level. And if the personally sponsored has a problem with that, your response is my team, my way. I mean, you can say it nicer than that, but that's always been my response is I want everyone to feel welcome in my team, and I will personally welcome anyone I choose to. And so I do personally welcome those second lines. That way they know who I am. And that did open the door sometimes for a second line jumping over my personal, coming to me and asking me questions, but that's a different video for a different day. But that is my biggest piece of advice. Make relationships with at least minimum your second levels so they at least know your name. I mail all of mine, this is just me, but there's an address on the other side. I mail all of mine a welcome. It's just a little welcome card. I need to go to the post office and get some stamps, but I will mail everyone on my team a welcome card. That way they at least have one contact from me and they're all on my emails list. That's just two of the definite things that I do. So that really saved my bacon. All of these leaders personally sponsored, my second line, they all know me. And they're all very willing to work with me. I'm very willing to be helped by me and to ask me questions and that sort of thing. So that was a game changer. That was a life changer right there, was having that relationship with these ladies on my second line. So now let's get down to kind of the nuts and bolts of what happens when a personal leaves and they're a leader. This leader had 102 on her team. Those 102, they roll up. She had 30 personally sponsored. They become just like my personally sponsored. So just like women that I added to the business, these were the second line, my second line, they roll up to become mine. I don't get to count them among my personally sponsored, so that number in the back office of personally sponsored consultants, that doesn't change, but I get paid on them like they're my personally sponsored. So I'm forever and always active and at least director status. So I get paid on these roll-ups just like they're my personally sponsored. So I start making 10% off a line that I was previously making only 5. So my paycheck does go up. Can't complain about that, but so does the workload. And so now I have these 30 men and women who become mine. I teach them, I train them, I work with them, I goal set with them, I communicate with them just like they're my personally sponsored. It does add to the workload. So if you do have a leader leave, expect that your workload is going to increase significantly for a time until you find a schedule, until you find a system that works for you and works for these new roll-ups. Your paycheck will increase to reflect that, because then you'll be being paid double on those second lines. Okay. However, I need to tell you this. I wrote this down. They are just roll-ups. They don't become personals. You get paid 10%, but you can't count them for things like crown clubs. They don't count for that. You just get paid the 10% on them. So don't get that mixed up at all, okay? You get paid like they're first, but they're not first. You treat them like they're first, but they're not first. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that's a little unclear. Another thing that really helped me through this transition period is open and honest communication. Absolutely 100% honest communication, emotions and all. This was a very emotional transition for me. This was one of my best friends, and it was very much a shock. Very much a shock. And so letting her entire 100+ team know I'm emotional too, this is hard for me too, took that wall down, that they couldn't come to me with those emotions and couldn't allow those emotions to happen. And you know, I'm a very big believer of, you get a 5-minute pity party and then you get over it, but you've got to have that pity party. You got to have those emotional times. And so I had an emotional day. I let myself have an emotional 24 hours to just deal with what I was feeling, and I let them see it. Now, I wasn't like pitching fits and throwing, no, I wasn't doing any of that. But if I felt the need to cry, I cried. If I felt the need to hide, I hid. And I was very true, transparent, and open with them. And I've gotten so many amazing responses from these women. Some I've never even talked to before, because they're way down there on the levels, saying that was the game changer for me, because I knew I could be real. I knew I could allow myself this feeling, and you set that example, and then you got through it, and I know I can get through it too. And so I encourage you to have open and honest communication. And I've continued that open and honest communication with them, giving them updates as a team of what's going on, what we've done, what we're planning to do. And communication changes things. There's no reason to keep it secret. They're going to find out one way or the other, and I might as well get ahead of it and make sure they have the right information coming from the horse's mouth. I encourage you, that will cut down on the gossip and the drama. The next thing I did was I got with her leaders. This was an amazing leader. She had 8 directors on her team. She's an incredible leader. And I got those 8 directors, and we got together just as a leadership opportunity for them, and I talked with them on a very different level. It now becomes their team. Yes, I am leading this team, but it becomes their team. And so setting them up for leadership success, giving them the opportunity to really step into that leadership role, they really appreciate it because I'm not controlling this. I've taken the control and let it loose. And I'm allowing it to morph and mold and grow. There was a reason this team was my number one leg, still is my number one leg, still is very much my number one leg. And it's because of these women. And I want that to morph and grow into something even better. But if I try to control it and try to dictate everything that happens, I'm done. I'm going to die. First of all, from stress. Second, they're going to think I don't trust them, which is not true. I trust them explicitly. And so letting the leaders come together and communicate with one another and communicate with me, and we all formulate plans and ideas and then make them happen, that is huge. That is very huge. And I know this takes quite a bit of time. It has taken a week of my time, but it is 100% worth it to let these women know they're not alone, to keep them connected, to keep this leg alive, because I don't want to lose it. And I don't want to lose any of them, and I don't want them to feel like they're outcast. The next thing I encourage you to do is to get this leaders team really plugged into your resources. Because if they're a really good leader, they've created their own resources and the team is really plugged into those. Well, those are no longer going to continue coming. They're probably very much still viable, but there won't be any new ones. And so you definitely want to get them connected into your resources. They're already in your team, I hope. They're already part of your organization, part of your group, available on your website. Well, however you train your team. But make a concerted effort, like focused effort, on getting them plugged into your resources. Make it a big priority so that they are still rolling along with the training, with the working, with the incentivizing, whatever you're doing with your full team. Make sure, even if it's redundant, make sure that they're plugged into those. Make sure. The next thing I want to tell you to do is be compassionate. Be very compassionate. Not only with your leg who lost their leader, because this is a traumatic experience, and a lot of times, especially if compliance is involved, it's not always a very good experience. So be compassionate with them. Emotions are going to run high, tempers are going to flare, it's going to be, that quick, and somebody's going to bite heads off because emotions are right there on the surface. Be compassionate. If you're checking on people and they're biting your head off, understand it's not you, it's just the emotion from this. And don't bite back. Be the bigger woman. Be compassionate with them, but also be compassionate with you. You've now assumed a large line of people. That's a lot more work than you were used to. Now I have 30 new personally sponsored, but I have to learn a new system to work with them, and they have to learn my system. I teach my personals my system for working my personals from day one. It's not a big deal, but they're used to working with someone else. And so now I have 30 new people to get on my system, which is going to it's a transition period. But be compassionate with yourself in that you're going to be emotional too. In all likelihood, you were probably very close with this leader. I was. We talked every day. And it's allow yourself that space to mourn what was, to wonder what would have been, and all of those emotions, to run the gamut from sad to mad to I don't know what, to all of it. But give yourself that compassionate space for everything you're feeling. And understand that even though you may have pitched that 5-minute pity party on the day you found out, sometimes down the road, a couple of days later, when it's quiet and you're not overwhelmed with every new thing that you have to do, it may bubble to the surface and you need to deal with it then. Give yourself that compassionate space to do it. And the same holds true for those teammates. They may have dealt with it for a few days and then it may come back up. Give them that compassion to work through what they're going through. And this is the last thing I want to tell you, and I wrote it in all caps on my list. Stay out of the drama. I really shouldn't have to put this on the list, but here we are. Stay out of the drama. Okay? Often, if someone decides to depart our company or any network marketing company, to be frank, there is drama. You put 3 women in a room, it's usually drama anyway. But when there's a departure, typically drama is in there somewhere. You are the leader. You stay out of the drama. No gossiping, no suppositioning, no talking with the teammates going, oh my gosh, did you hear what Kamala said? None of that. None of that. Stay out of that. Stay above that. And if it comes to you, push it back and say, no thanks, I'm going to stay out of the drama. I've got to figure out how to manage all these new people. Okay? That sort of thing. Stay out of that drama. This is a hard time for anyone. Don't add fuel to the hard fire by getting into the drama, by feeding the gossip, by telling what you know. Stop. Stop. The words I don't know are perfectly acceptable. And even if you do know, white lie it, okay? Because you don't need to feed that drama. You need to stay above it. You need to stay out of it. And it will set you apart as a leader if people know Ericka doesn't do drama. She's not going to tell my secrets. I'm able to go to her with whatever's bothering me and no one's ever going to know again. That makes you more trustworthy if you stay out of the drama. Sometimes it's not easy. It's easier to gossip. But make the choice to stay out of the drama. It will make this very difficult transition easier. Oh, and don't forget, there's no timeline to this. There is no timeline to this. I can't give you one. No one can give you a timeline for when this is going to settle down. It's never going to be back the way it was. It's going to be a brand new normal. So don't rush it if it takes a little time. Don't expect it to be fine within a week. Don't expect it to be fine within 2 weeks. Every timeline is going to be very, very different. Yours will be different from mine, will be different from hers, will be different from hers. So there is no timeline. Allow time to pass as it is supposed to pass. You do these things we've talked about. You work your own business. Do not let this become a distraction from what you need to be doing. And the first thing you need to be doing is selling jewelry. If you're not selling, you are distracted. Don't go there. Don't let that happen. And you will get through this. It's hell walking through it right now. I know. But it will end eventually. All things do. You can manage what to do if a leader decides to leave. I promise.